We are live. We have a big show for you tonight. Mike Perry absolutely obliterated Nate Diaz. He went on an interview today to discuss who his next opponent will be. It will not be Nate Diaz. Plus, who Nate Diaz should fight next. Nate says that he doesn't want to fight the most violent man, the most violent champion, the most violent guy alive. He wants to fight the second most violent guy. So who would that be is the actual question. Plus, people are saying that Ronda Rousey's fight against Gina Carano was fixed, and they are absolutely right. I'm going to give you a case as to why that is. Let me get the chat set up real quick. And yeah, we are live. We are live. We are freaking live, guys. All right, so now I can see the chat. Everything's kosher, copacetic, and cool. My name is King David MMA. I'm a professional MMA champion, a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. Plus, I coach and I teach at Extreme Couture. We just got monetized, guys, so I'm going to be doing a giveaway soon. I'm going to be giving away first because it's the first monetization, right? First little step. So I'm gonna be giving away Fight Circus t-shirt. This is a banned Fight Circus shirt. You cannot get this anywhere. This is the Felony Charles Bennett mugshot cash app shirt. This is part of history. This is legendary. This is what they banned Felony from wearing at his bare knuckle mania fight, where he got the second round KO, and he went ultra viral. He was wearing the white version of this. They made him wear red tape over it because they did not want his sponsor's logo, and I'm going to be giving this away. So stay tuned in the next couple live streams. I'm going to figure out how to give that away. I'm going to give to somebody who's subscribed and in the chat. So if you're chatting, you're already in the running. Plus, guys, make sure you get your Real One t-shirt, but only if you're a real one. This isn't for everybody. This is not for busters, weenies, wussies, chicken necks, squirrel heads, or clown shoes. This is for real ones only. Send your coach to Studio Millions. Studio Millions will pack their gym full of students who stay, pay, and refer, and your coach will absolutely love you for it. So help them, help you, help us. Let's go, guys. I'm going to drink a little bit of this caffeine, and we're going to get started right now. Also, super chats are enabled now. Big update to the channel. I got some big updates. I got I'm upgraded the studio. It's popping off, guys. Let me read the chat real quick. So let's go. Just got here. Arpon the Dawn. Guys. All right. Yeah. Perfect. Okay, so off the top. Oh, I also watched episode 4 of my Uncle Hulk Hogan's documentary on Netflix. I did an entire 41-minute live yesterday about that. I reviewed episode 4, and then I removed it from the channel because episode 4 to me was like pretty negative. And it was a bummer. And I was like reviewing it, but I was like, do I really want to be doing this? So anyway, I just took it down. So if you guys are looking for the review, you can't find it anywhere. It's down. It's removed. I'll talk about it a little bit tonight at the end of this stream. So if you're into that, stay tuned till the end. And let's get right into it. Mike Perry versus Nate Diaz. What no one realizes. Okay. Nate Diaz, he came in saying that he's the original BMF. But let's be real. Nate lost he may have coined the phrase BMF, the BMF champion, but he lost to George Masvidal in that BMF fight. Now, years later, he's associated with the brand of BMF, but he, in fact, never won the BMF. He wasn't the BMF. He didn't win the BMF, but he's always got that like BMF kind of aura built in with him. Mike Perry, on the other hand, was, in fact, and still is, the BKFC Bare Knuckle King of Violence. Mike Perry holds the Bare Knuckle King of Violence belt, and Mike Perry is like 6-0 or 7-0 in bare knuckle. He is essentially the face of bare knuckle fighting, and he has the actual most violent belt. So what does that mean for his next fight? Because Nate Diaz is saying that he's kind of calling for the rematch, but in a post-fight interview, when they talked to Nate directly, Nate said, man, I just fought the most violent guy. maybe next fight, I fight the second most violent guy. So let's be real. He kind of knows that he's not ready for Mike Perry. Mike Perry says that he feels like Mike Perry, is the best 170-pound fighter on the planet right now. That's a big step, but I will give Mike Perry his flowers. He did better on the ground with Nate than I anticipated. He has improved his grappling, and although the fight wasn't on the ground for very long, I felt Nate should have been able to pull off a submission on Mike Perry. Mike Perry actually engaged in the ground game more than I would have recommended he should have, but he pulled it off. So shout out to Mike Perry. Excellent work. Elbows, split Nate Diaz open. That was brutal to watch. If you guys have not seen that, it should be replaying on your Netflix. Go watch that. And that fight between Mike and Nate is actually the fight that got the Netflix deal for MVP renewed. They had to put Ronda and Gina on the top of the card to give Netflix what they want so they could build a relationship. But that fight between Nate and Mike Perry is what's actually going to move the brand forward. It's going to actually move the deal forward. That fight is what got them multiple fights and a multi-year contract coming forward, right? Now, that hasn't been signed yet. I'm just giving you guys actually what's happening behind the scenes. So, while Nate Diaz wants to fight the second most violent guy now, Mike Perry has moved on and is now calling for a different name. Mike Perry wants to fight the actual original BMF, Jorge Masvidal, which gets really interesting because, as I understand it, Masvidal is still under contract with the UFC. So Mike is calling out Masvidal. Mike's talking he might go back to the UFC, but the UFC will probably try and put him in some form of long-term contract. He's probably also getting offers from bare knuckle right now. So Mike Perry's put himself in the best position possible, in addition to putting himself in the best position possible, because his fight with Nate was so fucking violent. People were texting each other, bro, are you watching this? Are you watching this? Are you watching this? That got the viewership up. And because the viewership was peaking, then they were able to go ahead and re-sign a deal. Jake Paul and Netflix have come to a deal that they're going to negotiate on. It's going to move forward because of Mike Perry and Nate. So whatever Mike Perry and Nate got paid, it wasn't enough. They should have got paid more. Okay, guys. So that's kind of how that deal got originated, was through Ronda and Gina, because Netflix likes that narrative. Now that they've delivered that narrative to Netflix to get themselves on there, even though it wasn't a big ticket seller for the live gate arena, the viewership spiked with Nate Diaz and Mike Perry fighting, so much so that I'm not sure if you guys even understand what the things that these people are actually looking at. So in order to renew the deal, they want to look at social metrics. They want to look at viewership. They want to look at the numbers behind the scenes, not just the live ticket sales, because the live ticket sales are a different part of the business. In order to renew on Netflix, you have to hit certain types of metrics, viewership, socials, etc. Mike Perry and Nate Diaz, that fight, when it was going on, was trending #1 on Twitter. To trend #1 on Twitter, you know how fucking massive you gotta be? That's like the golden freaking ticket. They just gave Jake Paul and Nikisa the golden ticket to move forward. So shout out to those two. They were, at one point, Nate Diaz was trending #1 on Twitter. Then it was like, Mike Perry was #2, Ronda was #3, and Conor was #4, something like that. Or Conor was #3 and Ronda maybe was 4. And then it switched again. And then Ronda was even higher, and then Nate and Mike Perry. And so they took over Twitter. They out Twitter trended Conor McGregor. So Dana dropped the Conor McGregor announcement. I thought they just dropped a poster. I was watching Netflix. Dana actually got on and announced that he did a video himself announcing the Conor fight. Yet it wasn't able to outtrend Nate Diaz on Twitter. So to Netflix, that is a huge indicator of what's next, which is another event. The issue is, are they going to have Nate back? And who will they have Nate fight? Because Nate was trending the highest out of anybody. So he gets the most eyeballs, the most social shares, the most reach, but he lost the fight. So Netflix, I'm sure, is going to push for a rematch between Nate and Mike Perry. Mike wants to fight somebody else. He doesn't even necessarily want to stay with the organization. Nate is suggesting he wants to fight a slightly lesser opponent. Not too far less, but still maybe not Mike Perry again. How are they going to reconcile all this? There's one way. Money talks. Money talks, guys. Those guys just set themselves up for a massive payday because they're both indicating publicly that they don't necessarily want the rematch. So in order to get the rematch, and I'm not saying they're doing this intentionally, but in order to get the rematch, Netflix is going to have to put up the fucking money. Let me read the chat real quick. We got Aubrey Gordon in the chat. Shout out to my guy, Aubrey. You the man, King Dave. Bro, I agree. Man, it takes one to know one, bro. I got Arpon in the chat. He says facts. We got Ty Controy. What was that? 5'9". I made $500 betting on Sean, and Nate's fight was going to get stopped from a cut. Forgot to bet on it. Would have been a good week. Yeah, so I heard that so Izzy Slots was in the chat the other day. He's the one who suggested that the fight would be stopped by a cut. I said, dude, that's fucking, that's my new pick, is Mike Perry wins by Nate Diaz getting cut. He went to actually bet it, and he couldn't find any kind of prop bet that allowed him to bet on a cut as a form of stoppage. So even though you forgot to bet on it, you probably couldn't have got that exact prop bet. Although you could have bet on Mike Perry to win, it's still not going to pay the same as betting on Mike Perry to win by cut, which would have printed cash had you been able to find it. And I'm sure someplace at it, maybe fucking Polymarket or something, or who the fuck knows, some crypto site. So anyways, Mike Perry, before this fight, he was also talking about how he sparred Sean Strickland. Now, I train and coach at Extreme Couture, and Mike Perry's sparring with Sean did not go well. Now, nobody sparring Sean goes well unless it's the elite of the elite of the elite, and even then, I don't know if I've ever seen Sean lose an actual round, right? I have seen him have competitive sparring, but it's the absolute best people in the world. And it's usually like a weight class or two up, or he's sparring someone in a specific skill set. Like, I saw him spar a 4-time world kickboxing champion in kickboxing. And that was a competitive sparring. Mike Perry pulled up. Strickland put hands on him. And Mike Perry said that, oh man, I was out of shape and I hadn't been really training the right way. So Mike Perry's implying that if he comes to spar Strickland again, he's going to do better. I'm going to keep you guys posted. I'm keeping my eyes peeled the next time Mike Perry pulls up to Extreme because I want to see him in better shape spar Strickland. I believe it's going to go the exact same way it went. And I believe that's a big hill to climb, Mike. You know what I mean? I think Mike can beat a lot of people in the world, but Strickland is elite among elite. And having seen their sparring, I don't think it's going to go much differently for Mike when they spar again. So hopefully that pops off soon. Hopefully we get some video clips of that circulating, because the first time they sparred, it was pretty intriguing to see Strickland put hands on him like that. Also, people are saying Ronda Rousey versus Gina Carano, their fight was rigged. Now, I'm going to say something fucked up and controversial, and then I'm going to explain it. And I agree. the fight was rigged. And I don't think Gina rigged the fight in terms of like she came in there like, I'm going to intentionally lose to Ronda. I think Ronda knew. I think Gina knew that Gina shouldn't be in there with Ronda. I think the promoters knew. I think the coaching staffs knew. I think everybody involved knew. I think you knew. I think I knew. I think everybody knew that that fight was going to go down very similar to that. Now, when I say it's rigged, I mean that in the sense of imagine you're a wrestling coach and you have a 14-year-old junior varsity wrestler who went 500 this season as like, whatever, a freshman. And then let's say you have a 4-time state champion who just got signed to a D1 school on a scholarship. If you were to put those two together, you wouldn't be but like you'd be 100% sure. You would know what was going to happen. Hey, I can tell this college student to tech fall this freshman or to pin the freshman or to do whatever they want. The freshman can try and fight back, but it's not going to help. The skill gap is too big. Also, if that freshman junior varsity athlete was to take the next 4 years off and then try and wrestle the D1 athlete who's only been out for a year, that time off gap would be. So now we're going to compile those and compound those on each other. And that's what you get in the Ronda versus Gina match. Now, the reason why I'm even bringing it up, because I'm not into the fights were rigged shit, right? But MVP, most valuable promotions, they started in boxing. And this type of matchmaking is very common in boxing. It is not common in MMA. In MMA, especially in the UFC, a lot of it is feeding people to the wolves. So, for instance, Conor McGregor and Max Holloway have already fought. But when they were both on the come up, the UFC had them fight each other. They didn't go like, oh, we think you guys are both going to be stars, so let's keep you away from each other till you guys are both 20-0, and then we'll have you fight. No. They were like, oh, you guys both have like a fight in the UFC? Cool, you should fight each other. And then they put them in there with each other on in like an undercard. You know what I'm saying? And like nobody even remembers that fight happened unless you're a hardcore. And I'm guessing if you're watching this video, you're probably a hardcore. But the general public doesn't even realize that fight ever happened. Now, Conor comes back. And rather than give him a fucking easy fight to like, oh yeah, Conor's our guy, we're going to make a bunch of money. They're like, hey, go fight Max Holloway, who's got the fucking momentum right now. Now, did Max get taken down by Charles Oliveira? Yeah, but that's a different fight than him and Conor. Although Conor did take him down in their fight, and Conor won the round by grappling in that exchange. This is a very challenging fight for Conor to come back to. So the way the UFC match makes is very, very different than the way boxing match makes. So this Ronda versus Gina was rigged in the sense of it's match made like boxing match makes, right? Like they already know the outcome. They already know what's going to happen. They're going to take 19-year-old Mike Tyson, who's a fucking junior Olympic standout, who's sparring grown men, who's KOing his sparring partners. They're going to take him, and he's, let's say, 8-0, 9-0, 10-0 as a pro, and they're going to give him a guy that's 1-21, and then they're going to give him a guy that's 0-7, and then they're going to give him, right? So like that type of matchmaking is how boxing operates as a whole. So this Netflix card, if you guys go look at who was the favorite to win, like all the favorites won, right? Like that's a very boxing matchmaking style, right? And so that's why I even bring it up, is because Ronda versus Gina was rigged in that sense, but it wasn't rigged in the sense of like Gina winning there and intentionally lost. No, that was Gina's best effort. Ronda's just levels better than her. There's no way that Gina could overcome that skill gap. Everybody involved knew it, and they went ahead with it anyway, tried to sell it because that's the boxing business model. Now, I'm not saying there's anything good or bad about that. I'm just saying that in order to get a deal with Netflix, that might have been what they had to do to get the deal, right? So now Connor's moving on. He's fighting Max Holloway. That is a very different type of matchmaking. And I don't even want to see him fight Max Holloway. I would prefer they matched Connor up more boxing style. I wanted to see, hypothetically, Connor versus Michael Chandler. And if they were going to give him a fucking tough ass matchup like Max Holloway, I was hoping it was going to be Ian Gary. That way, Connor wins once and he's back calling out Islam Makhachev. Right? Like, at least make it mean something. But if he beats Max at 170, what's he going to do? Who's he going to call out from there? Connor versus Patty would have been cool, right? Because that's a tough matchup too. I think that's not quite as tough as Max. They gave him a harder matchup. And I think that Max Holloway is probably closer to the end of his career than Paddy Pimblett is. So by Max beating Connor, it does less for the company than Paddy beating Connor. The issue is that Connor might have beat Paddy. I'm not sure if he's going to beat Max. So UFC does very different matchmaking, and we can see the stark contrast more than anything in the way they're matching Connor versus Max versus the way Netflix matched Ronda versus Gina, and their entire card were all the favorites won. There was essentially no underdogs that won. Let me read the chat. Then we're going to get into the Hulk Hogan documentary, episode 4. Good evening, bro. Yeah, it was not a fair fight, but props to Gina. She showed up even with the loss. Yeah, man. I mean, she showed up. She got a moral victory. She lost 100 pounds. She got in shape. She made the walk one more time. Those are all positive things. And hopefully she keeps training. I'd even be open to seeing her fight again. A fight that would be more intriguing, although I still think it's a mismatch, would be Gina versus Holly Holm. And that could kind of tie into the Ronda because Holly Holm KO'd Ronda. That was Ronda's first loss. Now, if Gina, who fancies herself a striker, could go in there with Holly Holm, who is in the women's world, a world-class striker, now we're getting somewhere, right? I'm not saying Gina's going to win, but at least Holly would strike with her. Let's hope, because Holly could see the game plan from Ronda and be like, oh, I could just double leg her and tap her, which is not outside of the realm of possibility. But let's at least hope that Holly Holm would be like, you know what? Gina thinks she's a striker. Watch this. Oh, you want to strike with me? We'll see about that. Maybe she'll turn Gina into a panic wrestler. I think Holly can do it. So that fight is much more intriguing to me. And if we're going to do the Legends of MMA thing, that's a great one right there. But yeah, so shout out to Gina. You know, nobody's got anything bad to say about Gina. You know, she's a pioneer in the sport, and you know, all that. And I'm glad she got paid, right? I like when people get paid. Maybe I'm crazy, you know, and I feel like there's enough money for everybody. Let's spread the love. Let's spread the money around, right? So, and you know, she earned it. She got in shape. She made the walk. She had to look across the cage at Ronda. Ronda could have ground and pounded her. Ronda didn't have to submit her, right? So, like, Gina took a big risk. She could have been taking fucking punches and 12-6 elbows for 5 minutes straight. And then Ronda could have done that to her for 25 minutes if Gina would have stuck around for that. And Ronda didn't have to submit her. So, you know, Gina showed some big balls in that regard. If that makes big guts. What do we call? I don't know. Is that an insult to say a woman has big guts? Like, you know, I don't know what the correct terminology is, guys. She showed a lot of courage. So shout out to Gina for that. Also, guys, so I removed my review of my uncle's documentary, the part 4. I still have the preview video up, and I have the review video up of the first 3 episodes, but the 4th one, it was just like kind of negative to me. And then I did 41 minutes on it, and I was like, man, like I don't even want to keep this up. So I took it down. But the one thing that relates back to what we've been talking about today is that my uncle had a huge impact on wrestling, and I thought it was really awesome that was shown in this documentary. And even in episode 4, it still showed how much of an impact he had and how he was able to do things that no other wrestler could do. Like, you know, for 40 years straight, be the headliner. that gets into the Gina and Ronda fight, which is how you gotta have the fight that the platform wants. So if the pay-per-view platform wanted Hulk Hogan, well, then that company has to sign Hulk Hogan. If Netflix wants Ronda and Gina, then MVP, in order to get on Netflix, should sign Ronda and Gina, right? And then from there, you put Nate and Mike on to give us what we want. Okay, and that now we're cooking with gas, right? And so I also thought it was nice that Kevin Nash said, there's Hulk Hogan at the top, and then there's everybody else when it comes to pro wrestling. So I thought that was dope. And yeah, I believe that a lot of people don't even understand what they are competing in or what the game that they're playing is, right? So this translates to so many things, and this is the big takeaway. This is the positive, one of the like 2 or 3 positives, but maybe 2 positives that I took away from episode 4. And it was this. My uncle understood the game that he was in. He understood the rules of engagement. He understood that it's about branding. It's about star power. It's about theatrics. It's about connecting with the audience. It's about eliciting emotions from the audience. So somebody else would say, Hulk Hogan is not the best wrestler. He doesn't have a Hurricane Rana that's as good as my Hurricane Rana. But the people aren't tuning in to see Hurricane Ranas. They're tuning in because they're emotionally invested. They're connected, right? And so my uncle was the best in the world at that. And that overlays into the Netflix card, which is like, these aren't even the best fighters. Gina and Ronda aren't the best fighters. One, they're what the platform Netflix wanted. And 2, they have the biggest name appeal to non-MMA fans, which is what the platform wants, right? So to become relevant to people who don't watch MMA, you need people who are relevant and not necessarily MMA fighters. So, for instance, if Elon Musk fought Zuckerberg, right, that would get a lot of fans when they were talking. Remember, they were talking about that fight. That would get a lot of non-MMA fans to watch MMA, right? So the game isn't how do we get MMA fans to stop watching UFC and come watch us. It's like, dude, how do we create the biggest spectacle? How do we create the biggest event? How do we get the most eyeballs, not these specific eyeballs, the most eyeballs? And I think that's what a lot of people are missing about what Jake Paul and the MVP MMA promotion on Netflix were doing and will continue to do moving forward. They're talking about Brock Lesnar versus Francis Ngannou. And although every single hardcore MMA fan will go, that is fucking heresy. Do not do that fight. Don't make that. That's not competitive. Brock's fucking 50. What? That's not real martial arts. What are you talking? Like, people will be enraged. But that fight will draw more viewers than nearly any other fight on the planet that could be made. And that's the business Netflix is in. So when people say these aren't even the best fights or Gina and Ronda shouldn't even be fight, it's like, dude, you're playing the wrong game, right? Like the viewer who's saying that doesn't understand what Netflix's success looks like to them, what Netflix is playing for. They're not playing for who's the best fighter on the planet, right? UFC's got that on lock. They're playing for what's the biggest fucking spectacle we make. Also, there's an element of this in fighting as well, like in the actual fights, where like if you saw me on boxing mitts, you would be like, that dude, what I don't hit boxing mitts. You get what I'm saying? Like, I don't hit boxing mitts. So to an untrained observer or even a trained observer, they would see that and go like, oh, this guy is going to get smoked. Meanwhile, I have a fucking pro MMA title. Why? Because the game that people are optimizing for isn't the actual game, right? So if you see Hamzat versus Strickland and you're at Extreme Couture and you're watching the way Strickland trains, if you just saw him on a UFC pay-per-view back in the day or a UFC fight now on Paramount Plus, there's people who will go, well, his technique's not even correct. He's not even right, but like that's not the game, right? The game is what actually wins fights. And so in the Hamzat versus Strickland fight, it was Strickland can live to fight. He's not going to get finished and he's going to stay composed. Hamzat cannot keep the pace up that is required to finish Strickland for the entire fight. So now Hamzat has to make a decision. Does he fucking redline it and potentially gas himself out and then Strickland beat the brakes off him while he's exhausted? Or does he try and pace himself and then Strickland starts picking him apart? Now that's more the game. It's like, hey, who can survive? Who can push after an intense exchange? Who can be more efficient with their energy? Who can stay composed? Who can make less mistakes? Because there's forced errors and there's unforced errors. So if this guy is too tired to force you into an error, as long as you don't make an unforced error, right, you're going to have very, very, very good likelihood of success. That's how I won a pro title. The other dude threw like 2 to 3 times more strikes than me, but he couldn't sustain that pace. So all I did was throw a body kick, hurt him to the body, try and take his fucking head off with a flying knee, and now he's shooting takedowns on me. Well, I'm a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. So how does that formula work out for him? He got himself strangled unconscious in front of his friends and family, and I had to scream for the ref to pull me off of him because he was unconscious, right? Well, I didn't throw more strikes. I didn't throw the more technical strikes. No, I was hard to kill. And then when it was time to go, he couldn't push the pace. He couldn't defend. He couldn't fight back because he had exerted so much energy because I forced him into doing more than he could sustain. That's the game, right? And that's what Strickland just did to Hamzat. It's a different game than what people realize. People think it's combos. It's actually defense, right? People think it's slipping. It's actually distance, right? People like there's different things in there. So when I give a critique of how I think the fight's going to go, and I go, I am 100% sure Sean Strickland will beat Hamzat Chimaev because not only have I been around the gym when Sean's training, I know everybody that was there when they trained with each other. I know exactly why Hamzat did well. It was positional sparring. And I know exactly what Strickland's doing in that position. Strickland's trying to let this dude get as bad of position on him and see how much he can withstand before he can get out, right? And sometimes when you put yourself in that position and you allow somebody to work, which is what he is on record saying he was letting Hamzat do, letting him work, right? Well, then sometimes you get past the point of no return and you get tapped. But in the fight, he doesn't even let him get to that point, right? Anyway, it's not just the offensive techniques, it's the defensive techniques. It's pace of play, it's eyes. So when I talk about Strickland and Hamzat, for example, before the fight, I'm like, dude, nobody has better eyes in terms of fighting than Strickland. He spars more than anybody on the UFC roster. They have mouthpieces that track how much they spar, and he gets hit less than anybody. So his work to damage ratio is so fucking high that he's not taking as much damage as the other guy, even though his work rate may not be as high as the other guy's. And then when the other guy gets tired and damaged and Strickland turns up his work rate and this guy's defenses are lowered, now we have a fucking switching in momentum, which is exactly, literally what I said would happen. And I'm not a fucking psychic. I'm just telling you guys, this is what I'm looking at in the gym. It's obvious, right? And it's exactly what happened in the fight. But I don't see anybody really talking about that. They're talking about like, oh, Hamzat needs to go for the finish. You don't think Hamzat was trying to finish that fucking fight in the first round? Like, you don't think that he would have taken the choke had he had the opportunity? He broke Robert Whittaker's face. He would have broke Strickland's face given the opportunity. He was not given the opportunity because Strickland stayed composed. right? Hey, now's not the time to go. Now's not the time to go. Now's not the time to go, right? And I'm going to stay composed, okay? I'm not in dire danger here. I'm in a bad position. He's winning the round, but I'm going to get out. Or the round's going to end and I'm going to get out. Like either way, I'm good and we're going to live to fight another day. And then you have 5 fights in a title fight within one fight. Each round can be an individual fight because you start back on the feet. So the same way, and this is the point of why I'm saying all this. If the only skill you cultivated for the next 6 months to a year was just understanding the game in which you're in, whether that's if you want to be a competitive fighter, understanding what's actually happening in a fight, as opposed to a surface level understanding. If you want to be a YouTuber, understanding what the game actually is on YouTube. Is it going ultra viral? Well, that's dope, but that's not as predictable, right? But what can you predict? So I believe I can predict consistency. That's why I go live every day. And guess what? I just got monetized. So I just started going live recently. I'm already monetized. Well, how did I do that? Just consistently, just going consistent. I focused on one thing, going live every day. Was the live good? Was the live bad? Like not even thinking about that, right? So what is the game we're playing here, right? If we want to have a competitor to the UFC or to Netflix, right? What game are we playing? Are we in the trying to have the best fighters on the planet game? Are we in the what niche is the UFC not serving game that we can? So let's take Fight Circus. Fight Circus is not a direct competitor to UFC. Fight Circus is in its own lane. That's why Fight Circus is seeing success, because they understand the game. Hey, this block is locked down. This block is locked down, but there's an opportunity over here. We're going to lock this block down. You get what I'm saying? Like, so what game are you playing? Like, whatever it is in your life, right? Like, I see, maybe you've seen this too. Maybe you can relate. You go to a fitness gym, right? You go lift some weights, do whatever, right? And you see some women on a treadmill who are a little bit larger, and they may be walking on the treadmill, but they're drinking like huge Starbucks fucking frappuccinos. Like, what's the game? Right? Is it going to the gym is going to get you in shape, or is it like a caloric deficit? Because if you're drinking, I don't know, 600 to 1200 calories while you walk on a treadmill and burn 150 calories, if you walk that long, right? Your 150 calories are not going to add up to the 1200 calories in the beverage. So you could have just stayed home, done nothing, and not drank the beverage, and you would be in more of a caloric deficit than had you purchased that on the way to the gym to give yourself more energy to walk on the treadmill to burn 1/10 of the calories that you're going to drink, right? Like, what's the game? And so many people don't understand the game, right? Yet they're playing. And so if there's anything you take away from the stream, it's just like, we're never going to be 100% understanding of reality, but the closer we can get to being right and the less we can be wrong, then things start working magically in your favor. Let me read the chat. I'm getting off on a fucking tangent, guys. I love you guys. Thank you. If you're online with me right now and you're rocking with this, then you're my people. Let me read. Strickland is just too defensively sound. It's not easy, but it's not sexy, but he's hard to hit. And and his grappling defense was more than enough. Yeah, so it's like, can you survive in bad positions? And then when it gets back into the position or the place in the fight that's better for you, can you capitalize on your places that are good for you? Right? It's not, I have to win every fucking thing all the time. It's like, sometimes I win in this situation, and then I survive here, and then I get back to this situation. And that's the game within the game, right? I watched a few of your fights on YouTube. You're a real one. I'm a fan. Oh, thank you, man. Appreciate you. Yeah. So people hear that I've got 9 professional wins, all 9 by submission. And the stat that's left off is I haven't shot a takedown in, I don't know, 15 years or something like that. I don't shoot takedowns. So, I don't shoot, they shoot, right? So I was just talking to a guy named Richie. Richie's a big time matchmaker for several shows. Manages guys. He's got UFC guys that he manages and stuff like that. And yeah, we were talking about that, about how he's got a guy in the UFC. His name's Tommy. He's Sugar Sean O'Malley's teammate, Tommy McMillan. And Tommy is getting a lot of flack online because Tommy was a 4-time state champion in wrestling. And I believe he had a 300 wins and 1 loss record in high school wrestling. And when he was watching Hamzat and Strickland, he was screaming about how, oh, you pussy wrestler. Oh, he was screaming at Hamzat in a derogatory manner for shooting. And they're like, bro, you're a wrestler. And he's like, yeah, but like, fuck wrestling, you know? And so there's something that happens when you're in the cage where like, it's almost, BJ Penn called it human chicken. Like there's 2 cars throttling the gas going at each other. Who's going to pull off the road first? And a lot of ways it gets into that, where it's like, for a subsegment of the fighting population, we're not shooting. The other guy's got to shoot. Like, dude, I'm not shooting on you, bro. I'm just not shooting. So, anyways, yeah, I'm glad you checked that out on YouTube, man. Appreciate you. You gotta have an angle. UFC ain't gonna just let anyone compete with them without some cease and desist orders. Yeah, so I thought the John Jones being on their broadcast talking about getting out of his contract was wild. I would imagine that they have hit him, they've hit Netflix, they've hit MVP, all with cease and desists on that, because that is way out of pocket. Way out of pocket. He's under contract with the UFC and he's on a rival competitor talking about fighting their guys, getting out of his contract. That's fucking crazy. But sometimes it's worth that, because now, from a strategic standpoint, as long as they don't go too, as long as the Netflix and MVP don't go too far over the line, if they go far enough to get hit with a cease and desist or some form of smaller lawsuit, well, now that's free publicity in a way, right? Like now they're neck and neck in the eyes of the public because there's some kind of legal thing going on. Netflix is suing, UFC suing Netflix. Well, why would they sue Netflix? Right? And now it's this thing. And now, so as the big dog, the UFC has to consider how much attention they're going to give the up and comer. Right? Are they going to actually hit him with the cease and desist? Because then that could be used like, hey, man, we just got hit with a cease and desist. So we're not going to talk about the UFC anymore out of the cease. But they're or a lawsuit of some sort, or like, hey, yeah, let's talk about your fighter pay, UFC, publicly. Let's bring that up. And although you have legal standing to sue us, we're going to win the hearts and minds of the public, because every time we're mentioned next to you, we're going to bring up fighter pay and how much we pay our fighters, right? So like, that's the battle, right? So I'm fascinated by that shit. Anyway, I believe there's space for 2. At the same time, they can have the UFC be the home of like the absolute best fighters who are trying to have the purest form of martial arts and the best technique and the baddest actual fucking champions on the planet. And then you can have Netflix, which in theory could be even bigger and be a bigger, star-studded, bigger name, bigger event, celebrities in the front row, streamers going live, Jake Paul's there, he's on his new Kick stream, or what, you know what I mean? Like something like that, right? That would be interesting. Because those two can coexist side by side. Because in a lot of ways, they're not even the same product. But yeah, guys, that's the stream. I love you guys. Appreciate you pulling up, joining me tonight. Make sure you get yourself a real one shirt if you're a real one. Shout out to Fight Circus. Shout out to Studio Millions. I'm going to finish this caffeinated beverage. It is 11:42 my time, and I will hop on live with you guys tomorrow. Make sure you got notifications on because I think I'm going live a little bit earlier tomorrow. Maybe a lot earlier. Anyways, guys, love you. Good night. Peace.